in spaces together.
I'm just a surf kid from San Diego, so I'm really honored to be on stage with such high-profile and accomplished businessmen, so thanks, guys. I'll give you a little bit about what we're doing. I don't know if anybody in the audience has heard a little bit of the buzz about what we're doing in Palm Desert. I'll talk about that project. I'm sure most people are familiar with the Quiksilver brand. Can I see a quick show of hands how many people have either bought and worn or have kids that have worn Quiksilver or are familiar with Quiksilver? Yeah. That's a pretty positive response for me being up here that, I'm in New York City, people from all over the country, and I think that was probably about 80% of the people raised their hands. So a couple of the things that we've been asked over the last few years is why Quiksilver? A lot of investors have asked us this, and Quiksilver was founded in 1969, originally in Australia. Bob McKnight brought it to the United States, and it was the first kind of surf brand that became public on the New York Stock Exchange. The company achieved over $2 billion in sales and has over 800 retail locations worldwide. There's an immense amount of market research available to us through the Quiksilver Corporation. We're very confident in the brand, and we know that the demographics, which is a pretty wide spectrum of demographic, which I'll touch on later in the presentation, we're very confident that they wear Quiksilver with pride, that the brand appeals to who their sense of being is, and the beautiful thing about having a partnership with Quiksilver is that they have global reach. Quiksilver delivered to us from day one a set of brand values, and our mission has been to take those brand values in the Quiksilver brand and digest it and understand it. Scott and I both grew up surfing in Southern California, and Scott lived in Hawaii for a long time too, so we felt like we had a pretty good handle on the DNA of Quiksilver, but as we soon realized, we still had a lot to learn about the brand, and Quiksilver provided us with a lot of information, so our mission is to translate that brand into the built environment and to the guest experience. A couple of the last 4 bullet points on there, authenticity, heritage, stoke, which means enthusiasm and excitement, and then ohana are the 4 key core brand values of Quiksilver. And those will translate into the built environment in our properties, and those key values go into everything we do from laying the site out, site location, and operations. Since the topic of today is millennials, we'll touch on that, but again, I want to reinforce the idea that it's about 30% of our target market, but it is a key target market because it is growing and it is big. They grew up in the industry that we're really focused on, so from the moment they were born, they grew up in this action sports world, which I'll touch on. Just a quick profile of the millennials. I think a lot of people in the audience are probably somewhat familiar with what we're talking about, but we see it as age 13 to 33. These are confident people. You can't buy them. They're very tech savvy. One of the biggest standouts for us that we have really latched onto is what we call FOMO, which is the fear of missing out. This generation, more than any other generation, wants to be part of the scene. They don't want to hide out in the suburbs. They want to be in the middle of the action. They want to be among friends. And a lot of that's driven by social media and the psychographic changes that's caused in our culture. We all live in a fishbowl almost today. And so people aren't as afraid to be around other people. Obviously, because of technology, they rely, as anybody on stage will tell you, they rely very heavily on online reviews. I know when I go out to eat with my girlfriend and we go to try a new restaurant out, the first thing she does is pull out her smartphone and look at the ratings and the reviews of the restaurant before we go there. Hotels are no different. People, this industry is, this demographic is unique because, I'm from the Generation X demographic. We kind of created the action sports world, and the millennials were born in it. It was already there. So they grew up with it, and they participate in it. Action sports industry is over $350 billion spent annually. The action sports team influence about $200 to $300 billion of their parents' spending. It crosses all generations and cultures. It's had explosive growth, as all of us have witnessed when we saw the Olympic Committee was going to take Winter Games off off television, and snowboarding kind of saved all that with the half pipe and Shaun White. Everybody was watching it on TV. It's still very popular today. And the growth rate of action sports has been significantly faster than all of the traditional sports. We have research that shows us in the United States that the millennials, they claim their activities, as far as our brand is concerned, is that 65% claim that they work out at the gym. Now, within that 65%, you have a smaller subset that says they work out daily, and then you have a little bit larger subset that says they work out regularly, and you have another subset that says they kind of work out sometimes. I kind of grouped it all together for simplicity and said, 65% say they work out. I work out sometimes. 45%, same thing with skateboarding. Obviously, a smaller percentage than 45 do it daily, but 45% claim they skateboard, 35% claim they snowboard, and 20% claim they surf. Obviously, surfing's only on the coast, but as you'll see in our presentation, we're hopefully going to change that. Millennials define their self-image. Again, males and females here. 16%, kind of would claim that they're in the surfing genre. 21% in skateboarding, 24% or 21% in snowboarding, 24% in skateboarding for males. And it's a little less for females, but I can tell you, having grown up in the water surfing about 3 or 4 times a week, that the amount of females in the water has been quite compelling nowadays. So, and especially when you go to Hawaii. There's a lot of research about the millennials. All the secrets are out. Obviously, what's going to happen over the next few years is yet to be seen. I think it's going to, in large part, be technology driven. But, some of the, main elements is that, we got to let these individuals be very self-reliant, using their smartphones and apps. The internet connectivity in a lot of hotels today, as we know, raise your hand if you've ever been disappointed with the internet connectivity in a hotel. Okay. Wireless technology, they can reshape your eyeball with a laser beam. For some reason, they can't figure out how to make your internet work perfectly. I can't figure it out. But, that's obviously a big focal point. We got to be wired and connected. We all know Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook are huge. We want to have apps available on cell phones when you come to the resort, which I'll talk about in a little while, that, kind of navigate people. Our first property in Palm Desert's 80 acres, so it's quite sizable. We're all about that FOMO, fear of missing out element of the millennials and Generation X. So one of the things we've been real confident about is our ability to have large action sports competitions on site and on the property to bring the demand. It's one of our key demand drivers. Entertainment, action sports, things like the X Games, the Dew Tour, we've all heard of them. I'm sure many of you have kids that have wanted to go to those events. So we're providing the opportunity to have large competitive events on the property. One of the key things about the whole Quiksilver brand in general is that typically you go to a hotel, and for years it's been about relaxation. You go, it's food and beverage, you hang out, you want to be in a nice place, you kind of want to tone down, get away from the world. Our philosophy is a little different. We want people to come and get active. Put your tennis shoes on, quit being lazy, go try something new. If you've never surfed, we're going to have wave pools for you to go try out surfing. There'll be surfing instructors and surfing classes. If you've never skateboarded, you can try that too. There'll be beginner classes for that. So we want to try to get people into the action. And that's one of our big, defining components of our brand. Obviously, communal gathering will be a huge part of the property in many different areas. The millennials kind of created this whole new foodie generation. It expresses who they are. It's entertainment for them. They're very conscientious, as we know, about the health of the past generations and how it's fallen apart in America, how America's gotten obese and what the causes of that have been. And so they're very aware of it, and they don't want to be like that anymore. So they read all the labels. They know the difference between what natural and organic is, and you can't fool them. A lot of times the guest in a restaurant is more educated about nutrition than the server is. So we got to be really on top of our game as far as food and beverage is concerned. Make sure that we're hitting all the right buzzwords and that we're really delivering a high quality product. The millennials around the world perceive Quiksilver very positively in general. They're proud to wear it. They feel that it expresses their personal style. They obviously grew up with the brand, and most importantly to us is that they trust the Quiksilver brand. It's always been perceived as a quality brand. They've always been, happy with their purchase for the most part, and Quiksilver's always done a really good job at making sure that they're always creating an innovative product and ahead of the competition. They have a new board short out now that it's called the AG47, and if you ever want to find out how high-tech a pair of surf trunks can be, you got to check it out. It's pretty fascinating stuff. This is a preliminary concept that is, we're a little further along in the design process than this, but this is the graphic that I had available to us right now. Gensler is our land planner architect for our Palm Desert site in California. There's 27 million people in Southern California and the 3 and 4 largest counties that can drive to the property within 2 hours. We're very excited about that. We've got 3 large site area components. We'll have retail, wave pools, the hotel. We'll have some private villas that are available for sale that can be put in the hotel rental pool. And obviously, we're going to have a ton of parking. That's going to be one of our big challenges, is parking all the cars. We're a 4-star hotel, full service. Depending on where the property is located, 150 to 400 rooms, fully amenitized. We'll have all the typical bells and whistles of pools and spas and restaurants and lounges. This is a property that the adventurous type of traveler, would seek, and we'll be in locations that offer, different types of adventures, whether it's eco-tourism, photography, hiking, kayaking, surfing, snowboarding, all of the above. We are looking at properties all over the world. They seem to be coming at us on a daily basis, and we're trying to hand select the locations we think fit the brand the best. So it's a very upbeat, lively hotel environment. And our core market areas that we target are obviously on the coast, near good surf locations, up in the mountains for snowboarding and skiing. Urban, Quiksilver, believe it or not, has a very urban side to the brand too. If you've never been to the Quiksilver store in Times Square, I encourage you to go check it out. It'll give you a new sense of what Quiksilver is about from an urban standpoint. And obviously, we're very fond of properties that allow us to build wave pools that are, that are away from the ocean too. Our amenities, we have a lot of the typical amenities that you see in 4- and 5-star resorts today. But our key amenities that we're most proud of are our wave pools and our skate parks. Whether you actually participate in skateboarding or surfing, a lot of people will definitely claim that they're a big fan and enthusiast of it, and they love to sit around and watch. I mean, a lot of people will go to the beach and watch surfing for hours, hang out on the beach, or go to an X Games or a Dew Tour and watch skateboarding. It's pretty fascinating to be part of. Obviously, we've talked about farm-to-table foods. We'll have a full-service spa. One of the brands that Quiksilver owns is called the Roxy brand. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Roxy. Roxy is Bob McKnight's daughter's name, and he started a female surf line in her name, and it's been incredibly successful. And it's much more than just a surf brand today. It's kind of evolved into like fitness wear and active wear as well, and they've got really nice casual wear. We'll have a Quiksilver retail store. Obviously, there's over 800 retail locations around the world, so we'll have Quiksilver retail on property too. And then, of course, live entertainment is one of our big key components. I don't think there's a resort in the world that's not tapping into the eco-friendly aspect of development. So I don't want to beat on this too much, but it's all the typical buzzwords. We're no different. Quiksilver is very, very ahead of its competitors in terms of sustainability as a brand globally. And so our hotel needs to satisfy their needs to be sustainable in all categories, so they're keeping a hawk eye on us on everything in that category. Events and entertainment, this is what we're most proud of. Our connectivity to the action sports industry is like no other brand in hospitality, just because we pride ourselves. Quiksilver is one of the godfather brands of the surf, skate, snow industry. We have connectivity to the Red Bulls of the world, the GoPros. We've had lots of dialogues with entertainment companies and how we're going to have different calendar of events going on, whether it's competitions or live entertainment, and those become a big demand driver for us. So we got to have a large parking garage. But some of the big things that we're doing that are a little different are education. We want to bring the kids into the mix at the hotel and give them something to do while maybe mom and dad are golfing. They can go and get an education on different topics. We'll have a lot of opportunity to do big industry events and fashion shows. The surf, skate, snow industry is a really big industry globally. There used to be a industry association event every year called ASR, which stood for Action Sports Retail. That name got changed to Agenda. So if you look online and you research what Agenda is all about, you'll get a sense of who all the big brands are that are in the industry. And so we have a lot of credibility in that world, and we're very proud of that. Art and photography is a huge part of the surf, skate, snow industry. So we plan to have a lot of events based around art and photography. Anytime you pick up a surfing magazine, I can't think of any time I've never picked it up and haven't been in awe of some of the photography from around the world. We're very family oriented, so we have little buzzwords like family movie nights. We want to have some pretty interesting things, and sports training classes will be a big component of the brand as well. Jumping into our target market, to simplify it, it's half families, half fun seekers. So to break it down a little further, 20% of our target market is the baby boomers. That's mom and dad, as well as Gen X. That's also mom and dad, but I'm still a Gen X. I don't have kids, so you don't have to be a mom and dad to be Gen X. But Gen X is a key ingredient for us because, you know, we kind of created the action sports world. We're the ones who made it cool. The millennials grew up in it, but the topic of the conversation today is the millennials. And then, of course, you have 15% of our target market is just people that kind of want to come and hang out and be part of. You know, when I was in school, you had the different groups on campus. You had the surf kids and the skate kids. And they all kind of hung out. And then you had the kids that were never really a part of those kids, but they wanted to be. Well, we want to be, you know, welcoming them too to come and kind of watch us do our thing. So, in the United States, males, about 20% of them consider themselves, and the millennials consider themselves core action sports athletes. 22% are just fans. And then about half the millennials don't seem to really care about action sports too much. And on the females, the number breaks down where 53% of the females don't really seem to care too much about action sports, but 21% of them consider themselves a core action sports athlete. 27% are enthusiasts. Some of the key opportunities that we have as a brand is the authenticity of the Quiksilver brand in general, is bringing that to the built environment. We have a great relationship with Quiksilver. We have a lot of credibility, again, in the action sports industry. Opportunity to bring a lot of celebrity athletes onto the site. They have huge followings. When you go onto their Facebook page, you see how many likes they get and how many friends they have and Instagram photos they get posted. So when those kind of athletes are on our property, it's going to create a huge draw for us. We're very excited about that. So again, competitions and live events. And we'll, you know, one of the big things also about the action sports industry is it kind of has its own fashion genre, and there's a ton of brands out there. And so we want to have, you know, a lot of fashion shows and opportunities for these brands to come to the property and exemplify what they're doing for the years out. Some of our big challenges on the property are going to be, again, parking all the cars, keeping the place safe. There's going to be a lot of people. Keeping technology up and working. Again, you know, that's going to be an ongoing challenge, I think, for any hotel developer in the future, is making sure that your internet is constantly streaming, is constantly being improved, is constantly providing the amount of data that new smartphones are, you know, requiring. So that's always going to be a challenge. Another big challenge is just knowing the action sports world in general. We have a couple partners that are just, you know, one of our partners is Jim Simpson. He actually invented the seamless wetsuit for surfing. So he's been really, really rooted in the action sports industry and has huge connectivity in that world, and that's very important to us. Gives us a lot of credibility. And the other challenge is changing with the times like anybody else. You really got to be one step ahead of everybody because development is a long process. And so keeping up with technology and keeping up with what's cool is a big challenge in the world because it takes, you know, sometimes 3 years. By the time you find a property, it could take even longer if you're in California. 3 years by the time you find a property, buy it, and actually get it ready to open, it can take a long time. So a lot changes in 3 years. So that's always going to be a challenge. Of course, environmental sensitivity and staying on top of industry change.